What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Shawn, GILL CPA with Neutron Tax. In today's video, we're going to discuss if students and teenagers need to file a tax return. So this is a question I get often, typically from parents with college-age students or high schoolers who have their first job, asking if their teenager or student, young adult, child needs to file a tax return. And there's always some kind of confusion about if their age matters, if the type of income, if it's part-time, full-time. So let's clear that up real quick here. So first of all, none of that really matters. The main thing here is the person who's in question here, did they make more than the standard deduction? For 2022, the standard deduction for a single filer is $12,950. Now, if somebody made $10,000 in W-2 taxable wages, technically, they have no filing liability, which means that the IRS does not expect you to file a tax return because you're not going to have any taxable income to pay tax on. Same with if you're a contract employee. If you're a 1099 employee, let's say you're a student, you got a little part-time job on campus in college, or you're a high schooler and you worked at a coffee stand in the mall, whatever it may be, if you made underneath that amount of wages, under that threshold, you don't have a filing liability, okay? Now, if you have a W-2 job, you may want to still file a tax return because any tax that was withheld from your paycheck, even if you made under that standard deduction of a little under $13,000, you can get that tax back. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you made $11,000 as a W-2 employee at a smoothie stand in the mall, or working in like the tutoring center of your university part-time. And let's say they withheld $500 in taxes. Now you don't have to file a tax return, but if you do file a tax return, you would get all of that money refunded back to you because you have no tax liability. You have no taxable income. So I always recommend to people, one, always just file in general, even if you're not expecting to owe any money or even get a refund, whatever it may be, you're under the standard deduction. File a tax return because it's always good to have it on record, and it's better to have something on record that shows that you didn't have a filing liability than having outstanding W-2s and 1099s with no evidence that you didn't have the liability. And what I mean by that is if the IRS knows you got a W-2 issued to you and you filed a return and you had no tax due, you're okay. If the IRS knows you got a W-2 or a 1099 issued to you and just no tax return ever came in, that leaves some questions open there, and you don't want open questions with the IRS. It's just a liability, it's just a potential issue waiting to happen in the future in case you do file eventually and something looks odd to them. Now they can go back and say, hey, we got a 1099 or a W-2 from this person in 2021, but no tax return. Let's send them a notice. You'd much rather take the time to file that basic, easy return, and they know for sure, okay, this person was a student, they made $10,000, and we gave them their money back, and no issues, right? So that's what I always recommend. If you're a dependent of somebody, you can still file a tax return. All you have to do is mark on your tax return that you are a dependent, and if your parents are claiming you as a dependent, as they should if you fall into this situation, you file both returns, they get the benefit of having you as a dependent, and you get the benefit of getting any tax that was withheld refunded back to you, assuming that you are under that filing threshold of the standard deduction. If you're looking to get your tax return prepared and you have a teenager or a college-age student who worked in the last year and who also needs a tax return, we can give you a preferential rate for their tax return, prepare them, and also include them as a dependent on your tax return, all in one easy package, headache-free. If that's something you're interested in, feel free to go to the link in the description below and book a call with me directly, and we will give you a quote for our fees and see how we can help you. Now let's get back to the video. So with that being said, you want to be very careful when filing the teenager or student's return to make sure that checkbox is checked, because what I've seen before happen is if the child files their tax return first and then the parent files after, claiming that child is a dependent, the parent's return can bounce back from the e-file system with an error code showing that there's a duplicate social security number going on, which is essentially that the IRS thinks the dependent has already filed the tax return, which they have, and then you're claiming the dependent, they somehow have a glitch where they don't realize that the dependent marked the box indicating that they are a dependent. And then because of that, the IRS thinks someone's trying to do fraud and your return gets rejected, and then you have to paper file your tax return as the parent, which, as you've seen in some of my older videos, paper filing candidly sucks. We don't want to paper file. That's when you print out the whole return, have to sign in ink, attach all the physical versions of your W-2s, 1099s, and all the different statements, and mail it out in snail mail, essentially, and there's a risk of your tax return getting lost. It can take the IRS up to 8 weeks to process tax returns. I've seen 8 months is the current backlog for certain types of paper filed tax returns. So I always recommend in these situations for the parent to file first, showing the dependent, and then the dependent files or submits their return after the parent's return has been submitted with that checkbox checked. And again, this error can happen even if everyone's done their part right, but you just want to at least prioritize the order where the parent who has the more crucial tax return, as the actual money is on the line, get that filed first, then send the child's tax return, because theirs is typically easier to paper file and lower risk as well. And with that being said, it doesn't always make sense for the child to go and hire a CPA, right, to file a very basic $10,000 income W-2 tax return. So they can do that online. There's lots of free services that I won't mention, but you can easily Google them and pay like $10 or $15 to file a very basic tax return yourself. And the IRS themselves even have a free e-filing service for people that make under 60 to 70,000 AGI to file their own tax returns for free. So the teenager or student can do that, and then the parent can have a CPA file their tax return and get it all taken care of. Hopefully you learned something in this video. I appreciate you watching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace. So that was the end of this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment. It helps me grow the channel. If you need help with your taxes, you can book a call with me directly at the link below in the description, and you can also sign up for our email list. We only send out an email about once a month, and that's everything I need to tell you. So I will see you guys in the next video. I'm out. Peace. Have a good day. Appreciate the views.